And welcome back. In today's California housing market update, we're going to talk about what's happening right now at the county-wide level. If you missed my other video, which was my last video I made, I talked about housing market trends at the statewide level, what's happening regarding prices, price reductions, etc. But in today's video, we're going to talk about what's happening at the county level and including a giant increase of inventory, especially in some counties where inventory is nearly doubling, which is quite astonishing. If you're new here, I'm Jason Walter, a realtor here in the greater Sacramento area. I make housing market updates. I've been doing this since October 2019, and I love making these videos for you. I make 2 videos per month regarding the California housing market. If you guys are interested in the Sacramento housing market, I have a second YouTube channel, as you can see right here. It's called Sacramento Home Goals. I actually just started this or kind of revamped this back in January this year. I realized that a lot of you are not interested in Sacramento content, so I'm making my housing market updates in Sacramento and doing neighborhood tours on that channel. So check that out and help us reach 1,000 subscribers if you guys are interested in that type of content. But with that said, I have a lot to share in today's video. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So this is a snapshot I shared in my last video. This is looking at the state as a whole, what's happening, right? Regarding sales, prices, etc. And by the way, today's video is only looking at existing houses, excluding brand new home construction. So sales overall decreased by 0.3%. which is pretty remarkable, like I mentioned in my last video, because inventory is up by more than 40%. So conditions are improving, but that is not translating to more home sales. The reason why I want to share this, because I'm going to share how this compares to each of the major regions here in California. So prices are more or less flat from last month or last year. The inventory index is at 3.8 months. That means it implies more or less a balanced market. It's moving in the direction of a buyer's market though. Days in the market, it's taking about 24 days to sell a home. So remember these numbers here. Prices down by 0.1%, inventory 3.8 months, and days in the market at 24 days. Because look at SoCal. SoCal sales actually rose by 1.9%. Prices are relatively flat year over year. And the inventory index, days in market, is on par with the statewide average. And this ratio at 99.2%. That is the sale price to list price ratio. I believe that's the final list price compared to the final sales price. That was at 99.2. If I recall from my last video, I believe the statewide average is at 99.3%. So in SoCal, homes on average this June sold for about 0.8 percentage points less than the seller's final list price. In the Central Coast, look at this, sales rose quite a bit, up by 11.4%, yet the median sold price decreased quite a bit more compared to the state average. It fell by 3.1%. These other metrics below is on par with the state. In the Central Valley, which is encompassing the Sacramento region, where of course I'm an agent here, which is my second full-time job after YouTube. Sales decreased by 0.8%, and we're down by 0.8% as well for our median sold price. And these metrics are also on par with the state. In the Bay Area, prices are flat. We're getting into negative territory there, very, very close. And sales rose by 1%. These metrics below tend to be a lot more competitive compared to other markets because in general, the Bay Area, the Bay Area in general is much more competitive compared to the far north, for example, which is right here. Sales rose by 13.7 there, and prices are down by 5.9%. And these metrics below are a lot softer compared to the state as a whole. So let's talk about sales, and then we'll talk about prices here. I'm going to share how each of the counties fare, by the way, at the end of this video, including the counties in which inventory has increased the most and decreased the most. And that graphic is pretty astonishing, given the fact that, well, I won't spoil it, but there's a lot of counties that are really have a lot more inventory compared to 12 months ago. So here's a graphic I share. This, by the way, is from the California Association of Realtors. I'll provide my own analysis based on these slides, of course. So home sales by region, SoCal made up about 43% of all home sales this June, which is basically the combination of the Central Valley plus the Bay Area. And look at this, the Central Coast, only 4% of all home sales this June were in that region, which is, SoCal is basically 10 times that at 43%. Therefore, the main driver of what's happening overall for the state as a whole, the main driver is the Southern California region, and especially SoCal plus the Central Valley and the Bay Area, of course. Therefore, what happens in the far north and the Central Coast really doesn't really impact overall what's happening in the state as a whole. All right, let's talk about prices here because prices are down by 0.1% from last month and down by 0.1% year over year. We're at 899,000, which basically means we're only about 11,000 shy of the all-time record high that was set back in April this year. So even though prices are down a staggering 0.1%, we're only down by 11,000 from the all-time record high here in California as a whole. So here's a look at the percent of houses that sold for over the seller's asking price. So in San Francisco, nearly 80% of all houses sold for over the seller's asking price. This is not a big surprise because much of the Bay Area, especially San Francisco, for whatever reason, it is commonplace for sellers to list their houses for less than market value. So go figure, houses sell for more than the asking price because they're already starting at a low price. That is just commonplace in the San Francisco Bay Area. As you can see here, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Alameda, Contra Costa counties all have the highest share of houses selling over the seller's asking price. In Sacramento, approximately 1/3 of all houses that did sell in June sold for over the seller's final list price. This, of course, means that approximately 70% sold below the asking price or at the asking price. So overall, the market is definitely softening compared to the start this year. One thing I didn't mention in my previous video regarding the California housing market, I posted that just a few days ago, was that it's actually more affordable to buy a house in California overall. This is due to the fact that prices are down slightly and mortgage rates are also down compared to 12 months ago as well. It's not a big difference, but it's worth noting here because 1 year ago, the average 30-year fixed rate, I believe this is according to Freddie Mac, was at 6.92%. Now it's at 6.82%. Now meaning the end of June, or June as a whole for the average. So rates went down very, very slightly. And again, prices are down by 0.1%. Therefore, your average monthly housing payment is down by 1.7% compared to 12 months ago. So slightly more affordable. I know that's not a big number, but it is way different compared to, look at September 22. Back then, your average monthly housing payment skyrocketed over 50% compared to the year prior in 2021. And that was one of the main reasons there why we had this correction in our housing market because of rates and also because of inventory increasing very, very fast in the last half of that year. So in any case, what I'm getting at is that it's good to see that finally we're seeing payment growth actually going down, which is way different compared to what happened in 21 through really early 2023. All right, let's talk about inventory. And this is pretty astonishing here. This is one of the main drivers why the market is actually softening here in California. But I want to share some kind of new stats regarding this though. So the month supply is at 3.8 months. Like I mentioned in my other video, I mean, during the Great Recession, the month supply was over a 16-month supply. So the housing supply was at very, very high levels. And ever since really 2009, inventory has been relatively low at less than around 6 months. Now it's at 3.8 months, which by the way, in the previous month back in May, it also was at 3.8 months, so unchanged compared to the previous month. When looking at inventory levels, this is the total number of houses for sale in California. It actually increased the highest level since October of 2019. So this lock-in effect is actually easing because of sales are at low levels and we're seeing people listing their house for sale. So active listings rose by 43% compared to June of 2024. Again, the highest reading since October of 2019. It still is far less though compared to June 18 and 2019 though. We actually would be seeing inventory increasing a much faster clip if we were seeing a lot of people listing their house for sale. And in fact, it actually decreased by 5% this June compared to 12 months ago. So this lock-in effect is actually still in effect, lack of a better word, because people have these ultra low rates and they're deciding not to sell their houses because of the market softening, because they're not going to get that high home price that they were expecting. And on top of that, they're really not motivated to sell, right? We're not seeing a lot of distressed home sales. People who are selling are moving because of, everyday reasons, death, divorce, job relocation, etc. But right now, new listings actually decrease year over year for the first time since December of 2024. As a note right there, new listings this June were the lowest reading for the month of June since at least June of 2018, excluding June of 2023. So we're still seeing a lack of houses being listed for sale, and this is due to this lock-in effect. In fact, when looking at June of 2018 compared to pre-COVID levels, 18 and 19, we should have around 29,000 new listings. This month, we're down to 20,000. So new listings were down by about 30% compared to pre-COVID levels. And again, our housing market would slow down much faster if new listings were skyrocketing, but in fact, they're actually going down. I really like this slide here. This is again from the California Association of Realtors. They're looking at sales, which obviously is demand compared to active listings, which is the total number of houses for sale or housing supply, housing inventory, one and the same. So you can see here the clear difference between demand and inventory, right? So in SoCal, sales only rose by 1.9% from 12 months ago, yet they have a 99% increase of active listings. So even though inventory basically doubled, nearly doubled, sales only squeaked up by about 1.9%. This is virtually true for all these regions here where sales are at low levels compared to inventory. Now, speaking of inventory, here's a look at inventory compared to 12 months ago for each of the 53 counties tracked by CAR. Look at San Bernardino. Their inventory rose by more than 140% there. Let's just call it very close to 150% increase of housing supply, far outpacing any other county in the state. In contrast, San Francisco saw the smallest gain of inventory, up by about 5%. Now, even though it's only up by 5%, every single one of these counties is reporting a gain of inventory. So conditions improving slightly for every single county in the state. Now let's have a look at some counties in the San Francisco Bay Area. I know a lot of you are located in the Bay Area, so you want to learn about what's happening there, right? So let's look at Contra Costa County, Alameda, and these other counties regarding inventory levels. So for example, Contra Costa County is the fifth highest gain in inventory. Their inventory rose by over 70% compared to June of 2024. Alameda is up by nearly 60%. Sacramento is also up by nearly 60% as well. It's important to note here that in Sacramento, our county is around 1 million people that live here. In the city, though, we have around 500,000. So our county is very, very wide. So when looking at inventory in the greater Sacramento area, not just the Sacramento County, the greater Sacramento area, inventory is up by around 45% and not 60%. Of course, real estate is local, right? Also in San Mateo, which is interesting here, San Mateo is up by only about 20%, again, compared to the compared to the statewide average, up by about 45%. So inventory growth in San Mateo and San Francisco is very much limited compared to these other counties. And of course, feel free to pause and screenshot to learn about any counties here you guys are interested in, because of course, I'm not going to go over every single one of these slides in this video. Otherwise, this video would take 13 hours long. So let's go ahead and move right on. And that's this right here. Let's talk about prices and sales from last month and 12 months ago. So overall for the state, looking at single family houses, prices and sales are down compared to 12 months ago. Sales down by 0.3%. Condos though, look at this. Prices are down by 3.9%. This does not mean that if you own a condo in California, that your home value or your condo value went down by 3.9%. We're only talking about closed home sales. And again, we're talking about the median number. So half sold above this amount and half sold below this amount. So overall though, for the state, it's down 3.9%. So softening much more compared to single family houses. It decreased down by 0.1%. Now looking at each of the major regions regarding single family houses, the Central Coast, the Central Valley, and the far north are all experiencing decreases in prices from 1 year ago. And again, in the Bay Area, prices are flat, yet sales only rose by 1%. Now looking at the Bay Area as a whole, the most expensive county is San Mateo. That has been a common scenario for quite some time. $2.1 million. Prices are up by only 1.9% there, but we're seeing decreases in Alameda, Marin, and Solano counties. Remember, Alameda was one of those counties that experienced a big increase in supply. So areas in which supply is rising the most, obviously those are areas in which home price gains are losing momentum or they're actually going down, like we're seeing in Alameda. Something else I found to be interesting as well, we're seeing big decreases in sales in Contra Costa County, Napa County, as well as Solano, whereas San Francisco, look at that, sales up by 12.2% year over year. So the market in San Francisco appears to be kind of pivoting in the direction of prices going up there. Okay, let's talk about SoCal, then we'll talk about the Central Coast and the Central Valley. So SoCal, of course, the most expensive county there is Orange County, about $1.5 million, an increase of 1.4%. Counties in which prices are down, though, are Riverside, San Bernardino, and San Diego is down by 2.8%. The Central Coast, Monterey is down by 6.8. I mean, every single one of these counties is down, right? SLO is down by 1.1. Santa Barbara down by 9.8. Santa Cruz down by nearly 6%. All right, let's change gears here and talk about the Central Valley. Glenn County, prices rose by 10%, huge increase in sales, up by 62.5%. That is quite astonishing to say the least. So in Sacramento, we're at around 550,000. It has been pegged at around 550 for about a year now. Prices are down by 1.9. Sales rose by 1%. Placer County, prices are up by 2.9%. In the far north, this is actually the most affordable county in the state because their median sold price is just under $287,000. This, though, could be counteracted or counterbalanced with the fact that I'm guessing that home insurance rates have increased quite a bit compared to the past several years there, because this is a county located just north of Lake Tahoe, and much of the houses or regions in the mountains and in the foothills are experiencing big increases of home insurance rates in the state. I know in Marin County, for example, some areas have home insurance rates basically doubling in the past 1 or 2 years. And the big increases in home insurance rates are areas in which they have a higher risk of wildfire compared to other areas, such as Sacramento, for example. I'm not really seeing a big increase of home insurance rates for the past several years. I've been a homeowner here for over 10 years. I really haven't seen a big increase of home insurance rates in Sacramento. All right, so looking at these other counties, just feel free to pause and screenshot if you guys are interested in learning about any of these counties. Yolo County, let's just talk about that because that's really close to the Sacramento region. Prices there up by 4.7 and sales rose by 1.8%. With that said, if you guys are interested in the Sacramento region, then check out my other YouTube channel. Again, that's Sacramento Home Goals. And of course, I'll provide my contact information in the video description below if you guys want to reach out to me and book a call with me if you're looking to buy or sell a home in the greater Sacramento area. But we also cover the San Francisco Bay Area as well. With that said, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I appreciate you guys so much. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you in the next video.